What's up, guys? This is Dan for BladeReviews.com, back with a review of the Shirogorov 95T. Now, you haven't found too many high-end mid-tech knives on my website or my YouTube channel. I have, by and large, been able to avoid the mid-tech craze. They look cool, don't get me wrong, but they're expensive, and I am one man with only so much money for pocket knives, so I've kind of been able to hold my desire to get into mid-tech knives at bay for the most part. That is until I went to the 2014 Blade Show and finally got to handle some Shirogorovs in the flesh. And well, while I didn't walk away from the show with one, shortly thereafter I picked up this 95T. I got a good deal on the forums on this used 95T, and I have to say, I've been really enjoying it. It's such an awesome knife. For those who don't know, these are made in Russia by the Shirogorov brothers. These are very high-end production knives, or perhaps mid-tech knives, all made in Russia. Beautiful tolerances, wonderful details, immaculate fit and finish. Just very special pieces, super sexy in the designs as well. So I'm very excited to share some thoughts on this one today. I've got it next to my ZT0562CF just to provide a little bit of a frame of reference here. The 95T is a big knife. It's got an overall length of 8.75 inches. It's got a 3 3/4 inch long blade. Weight is 5.2 ounces. So it's pretty lightweight for its size, but it ain't your ordinary EDC. It's definitely a big knife. So let me pull the ZT off the table here, and then we can take a closer look at the blade of our Shirogorov 95T. And what a blade it is. It's immaculate here. Modified drop point, full flat grind. It's been given a stone wash finish here, but it's got a really nice polish to the blade. It's definitely been finished very well, and you get this very sexy high-end blade finish here. Wonderful big piece of Elmax steel, and it's simple, but it's got some nice details, especially with the jimping here, and then this little relief. I like that. It's just a little detail, but it adds some dimension and a touch of class. You can see as you examine the flipper tab here how everything is slightly chamfered and broken. You know, not just a nice detail that you may not find on, say, a $250 knife like the Zero Tolerance, for example, which is a beautiful knife in its own right. But just a wonderful blade. This did not come with a factory edge. The previous owner, and I did buy this used, tried to sharpen it on a wicked edge and did a pretty good job. You can see it does have something of a mirror finish. Did kind of ding the plunge line a little bit though, which is a bit of a bummer, but handsome blade. Cuts pretty well, although I'm going to confess, guys, I have not hard used this knife. I really haven't carried it all that much. I mean, first of all, it's almost a 4-inch long blade, and if I really need to get down and dirty with some cutting chores here, I'm not going to reach for my $750 pocket knife, honestly. I'll just use one of the dozens of cheaper knives that I have. But I did cut some stuff with it, and believe it or not, it certainly cuts. It cuts very well. That flat grind is quite slicey. The wicked edge, I'm sure, didn't hurt. It's very sharp. And I've just dropped it a little bit. I haven't reprofiled it. I didn't want to kill the mirror edge by trying to dink around with it on my sharp maker or anything like that. But it's a wonderful blade. Let's take a look at the handle here, and this is where the T in 95T comes into place. This is a full titanium handle with Shirogorov's signature turtle pattern or tortoise pattern, and that's where you get that 95T. It's for turtle or tortoise, presumably like this sort of tortoise shell pattern in the handle. And again, it's wonderful. I'm going to try and take you in close so you can see the machining here, and just immaculate. It seems like some of these have been taken to slightly different depths here. It really does kind of jump out at you when you look at it, and wonderful details. Checking out all the chamfered edges and the extra milling around the hardware here, the decorative pivot, your little lanyard loop, and single standoff, which as you can see has been sunken into the titanium there. Really cool, really nice. Simply finished on the inside. You've got this little channel here for your finger when you pull the flipper. On the lock side, of course, you've got a beautiful 3D machined pocket clip, which we'll talk about in a minute. But again, you've got that turtle pattern. You can see the hardware here. The edges of the hardware have been given kind of a mirror polish. Just a really nice detail. Very high end. This is, again, not stuff that you'll find on a $200 or even a $300 or $500 folding knife. And yeah, these details don't really do much to the functionality of the knife, but certainly it's cool, and that's where the added expense is. This is just a beautiful knife. It's got a real cool factor to it. So there you go. Nice look at the handle here. Ergonomically, I mean, this is a big knife. It's actually very comfortable. You can see here it's a simple handle. Everything just sort of fits in place. Your thumb indexes nicely on the spine of the blade. This jimping is really good. It's kind of like, almost like Sebenza jimping a little bit. It's flat top jimping, not very sharp. Just provides a little bit of visual interest, a tiny amount of traction. And again, lets you index your thumb on the spine of the blade there. It's not going to shred your thumb. Really quite nice. The broken edges of the handle here, the chamfering, just makes it melt in your hand. Super comfortable, super simple. Great handle. Works well in reverse grip. Not that I've really done a lot of work with the 95T in reverse grip, but as you can see there, will certainly accommodate a nice reverse grip. So, very nice when you're talking about how it feels in hand. So that pocket clip again, it's 3D machined titanium, lovely clip, cool, aggressive kind of design to it there. It's got good retention. Again, I haven't really carried this knife too much. Did carry it around a little bit, so I could at least talk about how it felt in the pocket. And it feels good. I mean, 5.2 ounces isn't a feather, but for a full titanium knife with a almost 4-inch long blade, it carries well. It doesn't feel like a complete boat anchor in your pocket there. So I think they did a good job here, kind of balancing the awesome, over-the-top nature of the knife with some practicality to it. I mean, 5.2 ounces, I think it's certainly justified here given the size of the knife and the choice of materials. There you can see how they use pretty much all the handle that they can. Doesn't touch your finger, but if you really dig in there, you can get it. But certainly I've never pricked myself on this while reaching for the knife. It just goes to show how they've tried to use every millimeter that they can in building this knife. So let's talk about the deployment and the lock here. Of course, you've got a flipper, no thumb studs. This is using Shirogorov's single row bearing system, and it's very nice. Rockets out. It's not quite as strong as the Zero Tolerance 454. That thing's like a missile launcher, but it fires nicely, very nicely, and certainly has no problem kicking open. So as I was saying, this features their single row bearing system. They actually have a multi-row bearing system, which I've never gotten to handle, not yet at least, but apparently that thing is super smooth. But still, the single row bearing system, very smooth. Blade falls shut. I haven't put any pivot lubricant or anything like that on the knife since I've acquired it, and it just falls naturally shut like that. Super smooth. Rockets open. Nice sort of metallic click as that blade falls into place. So the deployment's really nice, and here you can see the flipper tab. It's got a little bit of texturing here, a couple little chimps, and it works well. Pops the blade open. Haven't had any problems at all. The detent is strong, but it's not so strong that your finger might occasionally slip off and not open the knife. I think they really hit a good balance here with the detent. and the way the knife opens. So for lockup, you have a stainless steel lock bar insert. Of course, it's otherwise a titanium frame lock. You can see nice early lockup. I've flicked this thing open countless times. I've had this knife probably for 6 months at this point. I've just been enjoying it so much I haven't even brought myself to review it. Probably thinking that once I review it, I'll have to sell it. So I have just kept this one on my desk and occasionally pulled it out and enjoyed it and say, man, that's a cool knife. So, and it's cool. It definitely is. Lockup is early, very secure, no stick, no blade play. It's just perfect. Perfect lockup. Let's check the centering on there. I think it's pretty good. Looks pretty close to perfect to me. So I haven't messed around with the pivot at all. I will say that the pivot came with a little bit of marring on it here from the previous owner. I think they tried to adjust it. Maybe they took the knife apart. And that kind of stinks that the pivot there can get dinged up so easily. But that is the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, that's the Shirogorov 95T. What an awesome knife. I mean, what can you really say about something like this? It's beautiful. Is it practical? I don't know. If you regularly carry knives this big, then I guess you could certainly use it. It's fully functional. It cuts wonderfully. It's got good material here. I didn't really talk about the steel, but this particular knife comes with Elmax steel. They also offer it an S30V. Both are fine steels. Perfectly adequate for my purposes here. And yeah, the handle is just a thing of beauty. I love the T pattern. That was something that I really thought was unique, and I was very fortunate, I think, to be able to pick up one with the turtle pattern on the handle there. And everything else, I mean, it's a work of art. It's a folding work of art, and I've really enjoyed it over the months here. Would definitely recommend it if you've got the money. It's not cheap. It's certainly a luxury good here. Nobody needs a Shirogorov 95T in the same way that you don't need a Rolls Royce to drive to work or a Rolex watch to tell the time. But if you have the money and the interest, I definitely recommend it. Beautiful, beautiful knife. And I think the cost is justified here. When I compare it to something like a Hinderer or a Sebenza, you can see where the money went in the additional machining, and it's just a touch above. So, okay, guys, that is the review. I hope you enjoyed this look at the Shirogorov 95T. Once again, this is Dan for BladeReviews.com. Take care, and I'll be back soon with another knife review.